All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It is Jennifer Britton. It is the 27th of February, and I hope that you're doing well. Today is a demo with one of our newest products known as the Conversation Sparker Charms. In fact, 10 years ago this spring, I launched the Conversation Sparker cards. Those have been so well received by teams, groups, individuals around the world. And I really wanted to think about how did we further add to the Conversation Sparker product line this year as celebration of the 10th year anniversary. As some of you know, I have done a lot of work in the last, let's call it 6, 7 years around metaphors, charms, and so really felt that it was important and appropriate this year to bring it to life. So if you're just meeting me, welcome. I am the CEO and founder of a Canadian-based performance improvement company. We have won multiple awards for our work in coaching skills training, both for leaders and also in the area of group and team coaching. And so with that, really hope that you're going to enjoy today's demo. We're going to be looking at the Conversation Sparker Charms. So they actually look like this. They come in a little package. I'll take you through it. And a lot of people are wondering, how would I use them? So you don't just have to be a coach. You might be a leader. You might be a teacher, a trainer, or just someone who is interested in having different types of conversations. And so the charms are really to spark all these multi-types of conversations. So let's get started. And I want to start off with, why charms, why visuals in total. And as we get through today's presentation, you're going to see that I'm going to talk about just using visuals in a number of different ways. Since my start of work with groups, which takes me back to the late 1980s, I've really noticed that when we get people active, when we get them in play, when we get them moving, when we get them into like this visual channel as well, there's some new learning that happens. What I love about the Conversation Sparker Charms is we can touch them, we can feel them, and they're also a visual representation. So let me introduce you to these, and then I'm going to get into some of the science and the learning behind this as well. And really, you'll be able to see that. So with the charms, we also have them in a small package. And in the small package, you're going to be able to take them out and you're going to be able to actually touch them, feel them, and experience them. And so here's some of the science behind visuals and behind the charms. There is a real power of the visual and a part of our brain that is always scanning and seeking out visuals, and what it means is our RAS, the reticular articulating system. What I find really interesting about it is it helps us with perception. And so part of the power of the charms is not only that you can touch and feel them if you're in an in-person environment, but whatever charm you choose may start to focus you on things. So I want to say hi to Mindy. Happy New Year. We are recording, Mindy, so I hope that's okay for you. You can leave your video on, video off, just getting started with some of the power of visuals. So I want to just get you thinking about what's possible as you think about all of your conversations. What is great about the charms is they are yet another representation of metaphor. And so if you have, and I should have brought them to today's call, if you have seen the Conversation Sparker cards, and there's some of them here in the midpoint. What I've seen for more than a decade, 15 years actually, of using visual cards in general is these are things that we can remember in a different way. And similarly, when we get into a charm or something we can touch, like here is one that's a sewing machine, this might now make me think about creativity, or what can I make? What can I create? And that is more likely because I've touched it, or as we're going to see virtually, annotated it. It is something that is going to really stick as part of our structure. So here's a question, whether you're here live or listening in. The question is, what's the metaphor that's anchoring your first quarter? In today's world, we don't have a lot of pause. And so, what I'm going to do a couple times in our call today is give you sort of 60 seconds just to really start thinking about what are your metaphors that are happening in the world around you. So, I'm going to start a timer. I'll invite you to grab a pen and a piece of paper and just start sketching out what's the metaphor, excuse me, that's anchoring your first quarter. While I do that, I'm also going to have a sip of water. So no right answers here. Just go draw out the first thing that comes to mind. What's the metaphor that's anchoring your first quarter? As we come to our last 10 seconds of reflection, the question of reflection is what's the metaphor that's anchoring your first quarter? So just sketch it out, draw it out. What is the anchor? And maybe it is the anchor. Here's what I'm finding a lot of fun. Again, there can be some real lightness, some real excitement with it, is there are so many different possibilities. And so some of you may be aware of the hybrid work styles quiz. And what I found in taking the charms out over the years, and I've used charms of different iterations with lots of different groups, right? It's not just groups of coaches. But I remember very vividly, I brought these into some work that I was doing in 2015 with the Scarborough Hospital. And that's a project that won a PRISM Award for excellence in coaching. It was a project for equipping their leaders in coaching skills training. And as part of our work together over a couple of days, it was in person, at multiple points, I brought out my set of charms. And they were a little different than this, but same principle. And so a couple of ways that I used them was to, one, have people pick a charm, which is why in the Conversation Sparker charms, they come in a pouch where people can actually pass this around and touch it and pull the charm that represents, for example, their learning for the day. And what's interesting is we have all different ways of connecting. So if you're familiar with the hybrid work styles, some of us are visionaries. They may already see the world as Mo, who is our visionary here. Mo sees a world already in metaphors. So Mo's typically talking about metaphors, but her colleague Ned, who is over in the bottom left corner, Ned's new to the team, and he really feels a little bit more supported by being able to grab a charm and instead of having to come up with something off the top of his head. And my guess is if you're a leader, if you're a team member, if you are a coach, you've had instances where you get a question and you just don't know where to go. Like, what do I say? And for people who are maybe more, focused like the builder, you've got Joe, the builder on the right-hand side. Joe's typically moving so fast when I ask a question like, hey, what's the metaphor that helps you get grounded? Joe is probably going to give me the side eye and say, I'm not really getting what this woman is asking me to do. So having a visual, having a physical element that people can pull from also brings them into the room. As coaches, we always want to think about engagement. And so this is yet another engagement strategy. So just to finish this off, because some of you might be wondering, well, we've talked now about 3 of the 5. Who are the other 2? We also have the innovative experimenter who probably has already created his or her own kit of something that they bring to the call. And then we've got our culture wizard here as well. That's Jane. And Jane, as a culture wizard, is probably pretty intrigued with something like this and might actually get a set because she's going to want to help the team really keep looking at how do you anchor new insights as you go. So that's a little bit of a backstory on also helping people who are maybe not as familiar with experiential tools to really think about how might you incorporate this for different styles in your meeting room or your retreat room or your coaching room, because we all sort of see and experience the world in different ways. But the beauty with metaphor, the beauty, as I shared, in sort of looking at some of the science behind this, we do want to make sure that we're creating, a frame in a world of many, many, many possibilities. So with that, who's ready to, does anyone want to share their metaphor that came up in that question of what's the metaphor that's anchoring your first quarter? I know some of you are just joining us, but I know for me, the metaphor, I've got a couple of metaphors running, and I'm also looking back to the dice pull I did. I'm going to just pull down this photo because I don't have the dice right beside me right now, but the charms are actually a sister to our dice set that map to the 90-day for success. And I've really been focusing on this middle dice here of alchemy, thinking about how do we bring different elements together and how do we weave them for new impact and new possibilities. So that's been the metaphor that I wound up sketching. What I find interesting with the alchemy metaphor, it's a triangle, and then it also incorporates the different elements. So fire, air, water, and sun. And I find, again, there's a lot of focus right now. We're moving from like warm days, 50 degrees outside, and 2 days from now we're back to snow and like 20 degrees. So it's interesting how even in the system I'm operating in right now, there's a lot of focus on elements. So I just offer that up. I don't know if any of you who are here wants to share your metaphor. Feel free to unmute if you'd like. I know Yvonne is leaning in.
Yeah,
Hey,
Jen,
Ivana.
do you mind stopping the share and bringing that visual back up of the dice? Just because we had this, we were sharing yeah, if you can stop sharing so we can actually get a close up of that dice. Yeah, right now you're still sharing your screen, so we can't
I'm going to
see it.
stop that right there. So
Awesome.
see
Thank
if
you.
that is a little bit bigger.
Better.
Again,
Yeah,
these were
that's
the
great.
5 dice that were pulled. These are the Reconnecting Workspaces dice, which might actually eventually be called the Conversation Sparker dice. But these represent the 90-day guide elements. So you'll see alchemy. We also had experimentation.
Yeah.
Also a track. I think it was a track it. Conversations, negotiation, and then integration is this final one here. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's another tool, right? One of the things I wanted to do in today's demo was get you thinking about what do you have at Access, right? What are the elements that you could actually pull upon in your work? And again, we can do it. We're doing it here virtually, but what else might you do physically? So what does that spark for you, Ivana, when you think about this?
Well, what I was when I came into the call late, so my apologies. So I didn't know if there was something missing for before that question, but just going with my intuition, my metaphor that I'm really connecting to is kind of like a pot with seeds that have sprouted, but they're at different stages of growth as they are. And so right now for me, it's like I'm just coming into like, what seeds do I want to nourish? What seeds are just going to naturally die in terms of where I'm going to put my energy, my focus as it relates to my business goals, my personal goals for 2024. So that's really the metaphor for me, is like in Q1, with putting some intentionality on where I want to put focus and attention on those different seeds, depending on what's naturally growing and what's naturally wanting to die.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like what gets fertilized and then what, goes away to make space for other things.
Exactly.
Because the pot is only so big. I love that metaphor. It's
Exactly.
great. It's great. Mindy, anything you want to share?
Yeah, what popped in for me was the star. Didn't necessarily have a lot of meaning behind it at the beginning, but really the whole concept of radiating and shining and owning the star of who I am. But the image is what really showed up first.
That's so wonderful. And what's interesting, there's a couple of stars. So there's 2 sets, I can calling it set A and set B, set B. Don't know if I have the one with the star here. Let me just see if I can go through it and quickly find it, but there's two different stars. One is like flat, and then one has a little bit of like work on it. So here's the flat one that I can pull right now, and it's very small, right? But
Oh,
it's just
beautiful.
shiny, right? It's just shiny, and there's no rippling on it. But in the other set B, there's some like groove on it, right? And so
Mm,
it's almost like it's a radiant star. That's
Mhm.
the meaning I give it, but you could
That
give
was,
it any
yeah,
meaning.
it's more
So
that. Yeah,
yeah,
because the little edges they're all a little different. That one's very symmetrical,
yeah,
very
exactly.
even.
Which
Yeah,
for some that's great, but like, yeah, what if there's a little bit of
beautiful.
like
yeah.
individualism as well? So love that. Love that. Well, I want to take us through a few exercises. I want to also show how like we can work with not only like us putting that big question out, which might be comfortable or not. Again, this is why I wanted to bring in the hybrid work styles here, because the way we want to use metaphor and charms in different situations is different. So here is what, if you were a virtual facilitator or hosting a meeting, you might do. You might use one of the 6 images. So the Sparker sets come with 6 images. And I might say, hey, what's the image that, and I'm going to use a recent question that I was asking on our TikTok, which was, what's your stretch? If you had to pick an image that represented your stretch, or represented what would support you in a stretch, what would that image be? So take a minute. What's the image that represents your stretch or your stretch supporter? And what I'm going to get us to do is actually annotate. I want you to grab your pen. You're going to find annotate, of course, at the top of your screen. You're viewing Jennifer Britton's screen. Go to the right, view options, and then you're going to see, generally, depending on your download, you'll see it on the left-hand side here. Grab your pen and then circle the charm or the metaphor that is going to support you in this stretch phase. Okay, so which one is the one that's going to support you in your stretch phase? And there's a different star for Mindy as well. It's a pretty interesting one. Take a moment, think about what's going to support you in your stretch. All right. Part of the power of this is getting everyone, or getting people who want to share, to actually articulate and share a little bit behind it. I'll model it, just because if we had a bigger group, then it's important to sort of model how much depth do you want people to go into. So we're going to keep it pretty crisp because I want to take us through 4 exercises today, but I will share in about 30 seconds that I picked the frog. And again, the frog sort of leaping, because I am this winter leaping from project to project, corporate work to creative work, writing work to coaching, over to supervision, from group to team. So many days I feel like I'm a bit of the frog moving from area to area. But what I love about frogs is they're amphibious, right? They really also adapt well into many different contexts. And because my work with clients this winter is so diverse, there's a bit of a frog energy that I can also tap into to just make it easy, right? Sometimes I'm on land, some days I'm in the water and having to swim. So that is what I'll share. And who can I pass to? Who would like to go next in 30 seconds?
Well, I picked the key. I picked that particular key because it's very intricate. It has different facets to it. So curious, what's the key that will unlock the star?
Ooh, nice. And thoughts on this star, Mindy, here in the just above where the frog is to the left. Do you see that star there?
Yeah, next to the starfish.
Yeah, star. There you
I
go.
saw the
So,
starfish first. Um,
ah,
yeah, it's not exactly what I'm thinking of.
that's okay. And that's a nice piece around. You can use the charms, or maybe after or before using the charms, you get people to just draw things out, right? Because our iteration of the icon or image is always a little bit different. So, Ivana, let's go to you. What did you pick here?
So I picked the mask. And the reason why is, being in Italy, February is Carnival. And so there's been a lot of wherever you go in stores and just a lot of that. But for me, I'll be mindful of the bottom lining. Sensitive to the 30-second time. But ultimately for me, it's really about taking the mask off and being more personally visible in my community and social media is that's what's my edge. My growth is personalizing my message with me being part of that and embodying that message.
I love that. I love that. And there's something very elegant actually about both of your icons, right? Like you talked about, Mindy, the intricacy or sort of like just the amount of detail. And Ivana, like your mask here has a great amount of detail. There sort of is a festive, regal element that I'm also noticing. And that's something that, you know, you could put out to a group or a team if you're working with these. What do you notice about the connection between all three? For me, the connection is the intricacy, which is a little different. Like as a frog, I might be able to, you know, it would be nice to sort of harness some of that, be a little less cloddy than and more graceful, perhaps. So I hope you've enjoyed
that
that.
could also be a second question, couldn't it, Jen, to help people embody their icon if we were doing this as a journal reflection.
You got it. And I love that because, yeah, your next layer could be, what would you do to embody this? Or what are the specific qualities you want to embody? So it could be journaling, it could be a breakout. If it was a team, right, you could do this with a team and have the team move also at a next layer from individual to collective. What's the team icon that you want to all rally around? Or what are the elements of your chosen icon that you would like to donate or contribute to the team's icon? So again, depending on how much time you have available, you'll do one layer of questioning, multiple layers. It can be verbal, it can be reflective, whatever you'd like, which is why I think these tools are just so brilliant in terms of possibility. And again, because they're small, right? They just carry in your wallet. So you're going to notice just above, I want to draw attention because I'll forget about this, but you're going to notice in the photo that you've got different colored carabiners. And so one of the things that I'm doing when people order is sending the carabiner of your style. Many of you have taken the group and team coaching superpowers quiz, and that is a quiz open to anyone to take. You can scan, actually not that because that'll take you to the charms page, but you can go to bit.ly/GT coaching superpower. Again, that's bit.ly/GT coaching superpower. And GT for group team coaching superpower, and that will take you to the superpower quiz. And once you've taken it, then you can see, well, what is maybe one of my primary ways of approaching? I know, Ivana, you're, I think, a spiral lighthouse coach, right? That is one of your primaries. So if Ivana ordered, I'd send her a blue one, which is the spiral lighthouse coach. I am sometimes, and most of the times, the creative tool master, which is right beside it in the purple. Yesterday, I was working with a group of coaches. Two of them were ecosystem connectors. They saw everything through the lens of the ecosystem and the system. So they'd get the green one. We also have the grounded labyrinth coach that might be really good at wellness. They are the orange. And then we also have the red one, which is the catalytic firecracker. And as you can imagine, that energy of the fire and the cracker and getting up into that sort of 60,000 foot view. So if you order a set after seeing this, make sure you send me an email. There's space in your order form to either say, I want a gray bag or a black bag, which you can see in the photo. And then if you can also in that instruction space, tell me what your superpower is, and we'll send a colored carabiner. It's just one more way to not lose this. Really, you can put it on your package and it's going to stay with you. So let's move. We've got a few more minutes. I want to take us through a few more elements as well. And I'm going to just clear this. Excuse me. I'm going to clear, and it's not going to clear, but it will now. All right, I'm going to close out so I don't bring it with me. And let us move to the next slide, which is 10 ways. So I'm not going to go into all 10 ways. If you order a set, you're going to get a little handy card like this, just as a reminder so that you can see how you're going to use them. And that is similar to what you see here on this card here. So we can use these as openers. We can use these as a way for people to articulate what their lesson learned is. We might also get people to pick a charm to talk about their next steps. I might say, I'm going to pick the butterfly because I want to move forward just with graceful wings. I'm going to take us through some of the ones at the end because I know in all my presentations, I will never get to numbers 7, 8, and 9, which is what I'm zooming into today. So here's another way to look at them. As I said, there's 6 virtual maps that you're going to get when you order these as JPEGs, so that if you are working with them in a virtual space, you can actually just bring the image. You don't have to go and take the image. So we're going to look at a different slice of this. And again, these are going to be fast exercises, but you can imagine stretching them out. One of the things we talk a lot about as group and team coaches, especially at Potentials Realized, is how important it is to leverage your strengths. And so I'd like you to look across this map. This is set B of the 2 sets that are available. And I'd like you to pick the icon that represents one element of your strengths baseline. Okay, so there's probably lots of layers to your strengths, but what's one element that is something that you can tap into? Again, I'm going to give you just 60 seconds so that you can look at them, reflect on them, and an invitation for you to also write them down. Okay, sketch it out. So, what is a strength that you can tap into or lean into? Would anyone like to share their strength? Because when we own it, it really is quite powerful. So would anyone like to share theirs?
I can, if you want.
Okay, and I see Mindy going as well. So Mindy, do you want to share yours?
Actually, I had a question first, but yeah, I'll share. Is that a Pegasus?
Aha, so this one here,
Yeah.
this one here, there's a Pegasus and there's also one that's a dragon. So I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but there is a Pegasus, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Is it the
I wasn't sure
Pegasus
because
that
it's on its side, so.
Yeah, and thank you, because I realized, yeah, the image is actually this way, and I tried to blow it up, but didn't switch it. So
Yeah, so I actually first picked the owl for wisdom,
okay,
but then I saw the Pegasus, and one of the modalities I do actually has a Pegasus as a symbol, so as a logo.
nice,
Oh, there's
nice. And Ivana, what did you pick on a side slant or other?
2 from the left of the Pegasus. I took that to be an acorn.
Yes, there is
Is
an
it an
acorn
acorn?
right there.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
it is.
So yeah,
And what
I
does that
chose the,
represent for you?
for me, it's around wisdom also. And so like in terms of life experience, work experience, training, like really bringing my full self into all that I do and all that I am.
Nice, nice. So again, different slice, but notice how you might use that in your work. So I'm going to do one more. I won't do all of them because I'm just realizing how long this has taken, and that's good, right? We don't want to shortchange the conversation. So I'm going to go to vision. And I'm going to be a little self-serving here because I want to still celebrate an achievement from January. As some of you know, I'm now a Guinness Book World Record holder. So I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for an activity that was done in collaboration with over 500 other professionals around the world. So on January 19th, 2024, I came together with there were actually 600 people on this Zoom call where together we created our vision maps. And so vision is another way that you can be using the charms. Many of you would recognize this process that you see in front of us, and that is, of course, wonderful. One of my mentors, her name is Patty Doblovolsky, and her Draw Your Future process. And so some of you over the last 4 years have gone through me drawing that with you, but you can also use the charms as a draw your future or charm your future process. So I won't have time to talk about that today, but I know that there will be another call that we'll do around this, and just want to inspire you to think about how might you be revisiting, just even now at the end of February, your vision for 2024 or casting out a new one. So with that, we are beyond time. What's the take forward that you've got from today's call? Ivana, what are you taking out of the short time that we've been together?
Uh, um, just the versatility of how metaphor can really support the being and the doing, that whole zen of being and doing, just the extent of that. And really, I really appreciated your brief conversation around the styles for I really appreciate that. And I would love to hear more about that.
Well, we'll do a call sometime this year back on the hybrid work styles, but if you're interested more on that, there's the hybrid work styles playlist over at the YouTube channel as well. So yeah, I think all of these do fit in, and my goal this year is to help people see how all these what might seem as disparate products actually are really embedded in our wheelhouse here at Potentials Realized, and helping people have better conversations in a way that is meaningful to them in whatever context: virtual, physical, in-person, hybrid. Mindy, what's your take forward from today's call? And we've got you on mute. I hate to say that. We've got you on mute.
No, thank you. It's just such a great reminder of looking and feeling into things in different ways. Like, sometimes we get so stuck in the word. This is such a great way to sort of take it out and, just allow what shows up to show up, or to have an image that really draws you. So,
yeah. And many of you have seen me work with different sets over the years, also the dice, and to what Mindy is just saying, like a lot of, sometimes, language gets in the way. I say that as a writer. So how do we just really go to that visual, the iconography of it all as well? And if you're working with multilingual groups, especially, or global groups, this is where it's a whole other doorway, and people will get a meaning that they may articulate just an nth degree to, but they will get the meaning themselves. And that's what they're carrying forward out of your work together. So if you're interested in learning more, here is the postcard that goes out. Again, we did a little bit of an opener today. We did the strengths, but notice that you could use these for takeaways, wrap-ups. If you're interested in wanting a set, just scan this QR code and it will take you to the charms. What I didn't get to talk about were some of the additional facilitator resources. So there's actually a 20-page booklet that people get. And in it, I've picked some, just, 18 of the many charms that are available. But there's a quote, there's sort of a backstory to what that metaphor represents, then that might be something that you want to share with your groups, depending on what themes emerge in the day. So it's a pretty diverse set. Hope that you're going to enjoy it. And I know that there will be hundreds, if not thousands of hours of different conversations that you can have. So with that, thanks everyone. We're back together for 2 calls in the next month and hope you can join us on Tuesdays. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. I'll get you to
Bye.
head to the room. I'm going to stop that and head to my next call. Enjoy. Thanks, Ivana. Good to see you today. Be well.